Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public meeting. It's July 22nd. We have two planning applications tonight, 19 Lynnwood Avenue and Lot 39 Central Ave. No municipally as 100.
Recording in progress.
Central Avenue. I will call the meeting to order. It's 6:03. You might notice that right now we do not have the mayor or deputy mayor. So if I can ask council members, if there is anyone from the floor that would like to either put themselves forward to chair the meeting or nominate someone else to chair the meeting.
Sorry, Peter, is Councillor Vane not the deputy mayor at this time?
It's actually Councillor Dunstall.
I got you. Okay.
Yes, and he wasn't able to make it. So according to section 5.23 of the procedure bylaw, council will have to choose a member amongst themselves. So
Peter, this is Councillor Sharp here. I'd like to nominate Kevin Ritchie.
That's a great choice. Councillor Ritchie, are you up for the task? I can help you. I can walk you through the script tonight as well if you like.
Sure, with your assistance, I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Ritchie, I'm just going to forward you the script if that's okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And once we get to the presenters, I can call upon the presenters if you like.
Can someone please send the link to Councillor Frake, the Zoom link, please?
It's been forwarded to him.
Okay.
Councillor Ritchie, I've just sent that now, so you should be receiving that shortly. And you can just start from the top of the script and I'll let you take it from here.
All right, thank you. We'll start the meeting. Welcome to a meeting for 19 Lynnwood and Lot 39, 159 Central Avenue. Before we start this meeting, we want to share that the McNally House is grateful for the materials submitted by the delegations and have indicated they are listening attentively to the community. They have decided to hit the pause button for now, take in all the feedback, and then explore if there's another design that could work. Therefore, tonight is a conversation and the official statutory public meeting will be at a future date. Individuals will be notified of the date of a subsequent public meeting regarding the applications. Members of the public are advised that our meeting are live streamed by the town of Grimsby. Individuals and media may be audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in silent mode during our meeting. If you have comments, I request that you please come forward and state your name and address. Persons addressing the committee shall confine their remarks to the business at hand and shall direct their comments or questions to the chair. This meeting is conducted in accordance with the town's procedural bylaw 20-65. Members of the public that are here this evening are asked to conduct themselves with decorum and respect and provide the opportunity for all members of the public to express their opinion in an environment of tolerance of all points of view and free of intimidation. Persons addressing the committee shall not speak longer than 10 minutes. Each presenter may speak only once. If there are questions you want to provide as your input, that is acceptable, but you will have to complete your entire input. In order to conduct this meeting in an efficient manner, please avoid repeating comments or questions that have already been made. We will hear from each speaker and then members of council. Questions will be answered by the consultant, staff, or the applicant. If you feel your questions have not been responded to this evening, you can email our planning department at planning@grimsby.ca. With us this evening is Terry Johns and Diana Morris. T. Johns Consulting. Staff present are, I'm not sure if Antonetta Minikilo is here or not, Director of Planning, and Walter Basic, Assistant Director of Planning. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest to declare? Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Basic will now make a presentation of the application on behalf of the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep it very brief. It really isn't a presentation that I was planning on making tonight. I will defer to Terry Johns of T. Johns and Associates to briefly present the proposal and outline the issues that she would like to be or to have addressed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Basic. Terry Johns, do you have a presentation?
Thank you, Chairman Ritchie, and thank you, Mr. Basic. Good evening, everyone. As noted, my name is Terry Johns. I am the owner of T. Johns Consulting. Our senior planner, Diana Morris, is here this evening with me. She's responsible for the day-to-day on this project. Also in attendance from McNally Hospice are Pamela Blackwood, the Executive Director, Murray Bain, President of the Board of Directors, as well as Debbie Zimmerman, who is on the Board of Directors. To date, our office has submitted in support of the expansion of the hospice 2 complete zoning applications. Each of these included a proposed site-specific bylaw with special setbacks and fencing to promote compatibility. We also submitted a traffic report. This was prepared by Paradigm. It demonstrates that Lynnwood and Central can handle the traffic that will be generated. Finally, at the last meeting on April 26, which was run by the town, we presented landscape concept plans that are intended to help with the appearance of the parking. These would be implemented through the following site plan approval. Like Walter, I had a whole presentation ready this evening, but I'm not going to do that. Late yesterday afternoon, after seeing the number of submissions, delegations, and the petition, our client, McNally Hospice, asked us to take a step back to review the overall plan to determine if any changes are possible that address your concerns, but at the same time allow the hospice to meet their needs. So, as indicated, this is not the formal public meeting. We're here to listen. For this evening, I actually have a request of you. We've designed the expansion of the hospice comprehensively, as that's how it's going to function. But as noted, there are 2 separate zoning applications. One for lot 39 along Central Drive for parking, and the second one is for Lynnwood to allow an access driveway and parking. We're hoping you can express to us this evening your concerns related to each application. This will help to inform the work ahead of us. So thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing from the delegations.
Thank you very much, Terry. Seeing how we've had a little bit of a change in the agenda with these presentations, and we're looking for some public feedback, we will now turn to members of the public for their delegations or comments. So first I have on the list is Joan Morrison. Is she present? Okay, if she's not here, maybe we'll move to Wayne Mullins at this time.
Joan is here, I see. So if she wants to go first, I'd be glad to yield the floor.
I think she's having trouble getting her video on because her mute keeps going on and off. So
Maybe Wayne could go first and Joan could go second.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, thanks for yet another opportunity to provide feedback, I guess. I've got 2 main points, I guess, I'd like to talk to. One is overall with regards to the rezoning. And I would say essentially, I think most of the neighborhood feels that the zoning requests are problematic in that they take residentially zoned land to provide service access and parking lots for an institution. This isn't permitted under Grimsby's plan, and I think that's been confirmed by the planning department. And it's not permitted in other municipalities either for a number of reasons. A, it's bad planning. Our official plan has several statements that apply to this that say that existing low-density residential neighborhoods are to be protected and retain their existing character and image, that any development is supposed to fit and reflect with the established character of the neighborhood, and taking residential land to create service access or parking lots doesn't fit with any of the guiding principles of the official plan. The plan also, as laid out, removes effects of trees on Lynnwood Avenue. The trees on Lynnwood are a significant component of the streetscape. And with regards to that as well, the town's plan also says that any new developments are to maintain existing street trees. Shall maintain, doesn't give you the option to remove them or whatever, which this proposal does. So if the council approves this plan, there's an impact on the trees as well. The design that's been put forward for the new hospice building is such that they don't even meet their own parking requirements on the institutional lands already provided by the town. This shouldn't mean that institutions are allowed to start buying up neighborhood lands for development purposes. Instead, as in other Ontario jurisdictions, institutions are required to be limited to the institutional land that they've been already given by the town. So if that means scaling back on the proposed business plan, so be it, or revamping the proposed plan, so be it. But because the bylaw amendment isn't compatible with the official plan, the neighborhood, or the Lynnwood streetscape, it creates an even bigger problem. It's approved because it becomes a precedent. And the precedent would be that it totally opens the door for any residential or for any development to snap up residential lots anywhere in town to be used as parking lots, access, service routes, or whatever to adjoining developments. That precedent should not be allowed to happen. It's got nothing to do with whether or not we want the hospice to function or expand. It's got to do with setting this precedent for the rest of the community. It shouldn't be allowed to occur. No resident should be concerned about having land alongside of them bought up by developers for non-conforming uses like this. I don't think you'd want it beside your house, and the people here don't want it either. The official plan doesn't permit it right now, and it should remain that way. And I'm sure other residents will have a lot more to say on that than I do. The other thing that's a concern, I think, is that these bylaw amendments presume that the hospice development itself is okay. That's an assumption that actually may have the cart before the horse here, because rezoning may not need to be the first consideration. The proposed development adjoins one of Grimsby's few streams that's a regulated floodplain. It's governed by Grimsby's official plan to restrict development in areas of flooding. It's governed by the Conservation Authority Act, and it's governed by the provincial policy statement. I personally believe that the proposal needs to be examined under the new 2020 provincial policy statement. There's three things in the provincial policy statement regarding flooding that applies to care homes. 3.1.5 says development should not be permitted to locate in hazardous sites or floodplains where the use is an institutional use, including hospital, long, short-term care homes, retirement homes, etc., etc. Even if the site could be used and could be mitigated against flood hazards that might be identified on the stream to meet provincial standards for mitigation, the provincial policy statement prohibits a care home development from doing that, even if the risk is minor. And it's clearly stated in 3.1.7 of the provincial policy statement. Furthermore, the policy statement says that land uses aren't permitted where there's a threat to safe evacuation of populations such as older people, people with disabilities, those who are sick or young during an emergency such as flooding. This development proposal that's before us for the overall hospice facilitates only a single emergency vehicle route to the property from Lynnwood Avenue. That location is immediately adjacent to a bend in the waterway where hydraulics would create deeper, faster, stronger flows on the outside bend towards the home's parking lot. That puts emergency access in total risk to the property. Why do I even bring this up? I'm on an advisory board of a GTA not-for-profit who 2 years ago had to deal with unprecedented flooding. This is an organization who in 130 years never encountered a single bit of water. But all of a sudden, massive unprecedented flooding that they experienced, the impact was significant. There was massive insurance payouts that left them with insurers that were unwilling to provide them any future coverage for their operation or even for the board. We worked through the flood experience with provincial agencies. We understand what's behind the new provincial flooding strategy and the provincial guidance on flooding and the revamp that was done to the provincial policy statement. The preamble in the provincial policy statement that just was changed now speaks of calculating the impacts of climate change to highlight the realities of our changing climate and the need to consider heightened awareness of these decisions with planning. The policy now specifically directs public care facility development away from areas associated with any flooding possibilities. I'm not sure that this has even been considered with this application. Furthermore, the provincial policies don't support using structured approaches to flood mitigation like berms or floodproofing, as they can easily be topped or destroyed. So those are not permitted with healthcare facilities. In fact, Ontario's flooding strategy now mandates avoidance as the first approach. With this provincial guidance for care facilities, I would suggest that the McNally board should not risk developing adjacent to an identified floodplain. Based on my experience and what I've seen happen to another not-for-profit, the liabilities and the risks and losses are not worth the risk. Nevertheless, McNally board's proceeded, and I understand even the region has signed off on the proposed plan. So let's consider the realities of that. The Region's Conservation Authority Act employs a climate model of a 100-year flood event standard, which is the 1954 Hurricane Hazel standard that starts with 73 millimeters of rain in the first 36 hours. That's now almost 70 years old and a standard that predates current climate change, which the 2020 provincial policy statement now says should be considered. If we look at some very current climate realities in the last 2 weeks, the floods in Germany had 154 millimeters of rain in 24 hours. That's 200% more than the local model is used to apply to floodings there in our area. In Germany last week, 12 people drowned in an institutional care home because of flooding. If that doesn't give your head a shake, I don't know what should. This week, 2 days ago, China had a 1,000-year inexplicable rainfall event of 624 millimeters in 24 hours. That's 400% above Niagara's benchmark. And if you think I'm just talking about China and Germany and it doesn't happen here, 2 years ago in Eastern Ontario, there were several 500-year flood events. way beyond anything Niagara Region standards projects, which is why the Ontario flood strategy just came into place. My point is this: council needs to be darn sure what they're approving here with this overall project. The risks and liabilities could be significant. You can choose to ignore the current day realities, but you won't be able to ignore any consequences from ignoring reality of what's happening with our climate. Now, that said, McNally provides community with services that I probably will need myself someday. But new development shouldn't occur adjacent to an identified hazard zone where provincial policy and guidelines prohibit care homes from taking such risks. As an alternate plan, plans could be made to expand on the existing lot already on the western side of the watercourse. I know that's been ignored, but the land there is much higher and the flood risks on that side of the stream are much less. If the McNally board can't see their way to do that, perhaps they need to rejig the business plan. I'll conclude by saying that these proposed bylaw amendments should be tabled until there's a full examination of the property development conformity with the provincial policy statement and Ontario's current flood strategy. I think I've had enough time. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Just for the record, could we have your address stated too, please?
8 Lynnwood Avenue.
Thank you. And I just wanted to state that because this isn't an official public meeting, it does state that we would give 10 minutes, but I did let you go over. I think it's important to have all comments heard tonight for feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll try Joan Morrison again, if she's available. I think she might still be having some difficulty, so we'll move on to the next individual that I have on the list here, which is Debbie Kapayan, I believe. I apologize if I pronounce your name wrong. If you could start by stating your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Kapayan and I live at 23 Lynnwood Avenue in Grimsby. My comment for this evening is if this ZBA is allowed for this particular institution, will this set a precedent for the subsequent applications? Personally, I believe putting a full access parking lot in an established residential neighborhood is unconscionable. There has to be a better, more creative and responsible plan for this. It's a slippery slope. Thank you. And that's all I have for this evening.
And thank you for your comments, Debbie. Next, I have Paul Di Pietro. If you could start by stating your address, please.
Hi there. Yep, it's Paul Di Pietro, 152 Central Avenue. I'm currently the neighbor of the existing hospice. I would just like to say that, I'm opposed to the rezoning of either property. I believe myself and the neighbors in this town who bought property felt protected by the bylaws and believed in the official plan, and we're never expecting a parking lot to be our new neighbor. I don't think that's fair to anybody. There's all other issues. Obviously, putting a parking lot in a residential neighborhood, there's lighting. Currently, the average street light's about 50 feet from the average residence and falls between the property lines. The lot at Lynnwood, at 19 Lynnwood, is only 86 feet wide, I think. So those street lights would now be illuminating the two houses on either side and lighting up their bedrooms. Again, I don't think that's fair either. The current McNally house has a vacant lot on one side and then has their building on the other side, which creates a buffer zone to the residences on either side. 19 Lynnwood would not have any buffer zones. They would literally be next to a parking lot. So they'd be exposed to vehicles coming and going, car alarms, horns, key fobs, door slamming, headlights, diesel engine of delivery trucks, ambulances, body removal, garbage trucks picking up the bins, the noise of the bin slamming, the beeping of the reversing of those garbage trucks, snow plows. Those are all things I hear now for the current McNally. And again, there's a buffer zone between myself and their parking lot. So imagine if that parking lot was right next door to two residential houses. Over the past 2 years, McNally's had, I think, 3 open houses now. We've had several private meetings with the board and Pam. These suggestions have all been made, but over the last 2 years, their site plan hasn't changed at all, other than a few bushes here and there. You know, the neighborhood, we're trying to work with McNally. We just don't want the streetscape changed as far as having a parking lot visible to the streetscape. You can put all the trees, shrubs, anything you want to hide it, but at the end of the day, those noises are still there, and so is that parking lot, as well as the lighting. Lynnwood isn't equipped with sidewalks, curbs. It's got poor lighting. It's not equipped for the extra traffic, garbage trucks, ambulances, all those heavy vehicles they're going to be coming daily, coming and going. I get it. There are garbage trucks that show up once a week right now, but the garbage trucks will be showing up daily. Just a second here. So again, just 1 second. Again, like Wayne said, the decision is going to set a precedence for future decisions in the town. It'll allow any of the future developers, especially the builders and that are building townhouse complex, multiplexes, to put the parking lot right at the streetscape. Currently, the bylaw now for multiplexes and apartment buildings and stuff, all the parking has to be at the rear. That's an option too for the expansion, is to put all the parking in the rear. Use 19 Lynnwood, let's say, as an entrance and have all the parking at the rear in the institutional area. So it's out of sight of the residents. The noise is contained to the back. So again, in conclusion, I don't agree with the rezoning. I've traveled the province over the last 15 years working. I've worked in many towns and cities. I have never, ever seen a parking lot in a low density residential neighborhood. And I hope Grimsby's not the first. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. Next, I have Louisa McAlpine. If you could start by stating your address. Before you do, I just have a question for the clerk. I have the same name later on as Snowbird Transit as well. Is that supposed to be one person or?
Oh, hi, it's Louisa. No, I'm representing my my mom, my family's home.
Okay.
Her name is also Louisa McAlpine at 17 Lynnwood, right beside the 19 Lynnwood.
Okay, are we having her speak later on as well then, or is it just going to be one speaker for the house?
Just one.
Okay, thank you, Louisa. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate Mr. Mullins and in particular Mr. DiPietro's comments that again, my mom's lived right next door. They've been there for almost 50 years, and there's just no place in this residential area for that. The one point is not that any of the residents who are in opposition of this are opposed to the great work that McNally House is doing and represents. And maybe we've even had family and friends, take part or avail themselves to the services. No one's discrediting that. The thing is, it's a residential neighborhood. These are for homes. There are no sidewalks. We don't want it. That's I guess the short and long of it.
Thank you, Louisa. Next, I have Marilyn Smith.
Good evening. I had no intentions of speaking tonight. I simply wanted to be present to see how things were handled. We live at 11 Brookside Avenue, which is adjacent to Lynnwood, and are regular supporters of McNally House and the marvelous work they are doing. However, the points that Mr. Mullins made in particular resonate. And so, it seems to me that McNally's House's request is above and beyond what the council should be approving. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Next on my list, I have Ann and Keith King. You could start by stating your address. See if they're here. Okay, I may be mistaken.
Mr. Chair, I think is Councillor Frake here. Mr. Chair, I think you skipped through a couple of names there at the top after Louise McAlpine. You skipped Sabrina and William Hughes. I think.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Councillor Frake. We'll go to Sabrina and Steve. I believe Turkett. I apologize if I pronounced your last name wrong. If you could start by stating your address, please.
You actually pronounced it correctly, so that's great. Address is 160 Central Avenue. So I think majority of our questions that we had, especially regarding lighting issues and noise, has already been asked. Further to that is, what's to stop further development? I mean, who's to say in 10 years from now that McNally doesn't want to do another expansion and some more houses are bought up for more parking lots? So I just don't feel that it's a place that council should be looking at approving. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Sabrina.
you.
Thank you. Next, I have William Hughes. And I don't see Mr. Hughes on the participants list under Williams Hughes. So I will move on next to, and I also don't see Ann and Keith King on the participants list for the meeting. If you are, please speak up. So next I'll move to, and I apologize again if I pronounce your name wrong, Jerry Varacchio. Or Varacchio.
You got it right the second time. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank the previous speakers for their comments, in particular Wayne Mullins and Paul DiPietro. The points that they made were relevant, on point, and both my wife and I certainly concur with all of the comments of the previous speakers. We do not agree with the zoning. Our address is 134 Central Avenue, and we are right next door to the existing hospice on the other side, on the west side. And we feel that the zoning, for the reasons that the previous speakers have already articulated, is inappropriate and should be looking at some other options. I'd like to mention, unless I misunderstood from some previous meetings and presentations that we've had in the past that one of the options that McNally was looking at and decided against for, I think, funding reasons was having access through the main street and coming down from the hospital and down there. But because of certain extra expenses with roads and bridges, that was something that was not pursued. It's important to keep this residential area intact as per the official plan and the bylaws, and as stated by the previous speakers. And certainly you don't want to, council shouldn't be setting a precedent that then can be manipulated by other developers down the road. So I just want to concur and state for the record that we're opposed to the application as it stands, and certainly not to the work that McNally does. We have very grateful for everything that they do, but they need to revisit this plan, and they'll certainly get the support of the full neighborhood if they do. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Next, we have Lori Ann Braun. If you could start by stating your address, please.
Hi, my name's Lori Ann, and I live at 6 Sunny Lee Crescent, which is, I guess, exactly across the street from 19 Lynnwood. If you drive out of that driveway, you drive right down Sunny Lee Crescent. I am going tonight to just speak, hopefully briefly. I'm going to read, I've prepared something about the safety issue if this proposed amendment goes through. Our neighborhood is a very well-established residential neighborhood, as everyone knows, and it's over 50 years old. Being an older neighborhood, of course, we have no sidewalks and no curbs. Our streetlights are quite far apart, and the street is not well lit. Our street is traveled very heavily by pedestrians, young and old. Because we don't have any sidewalks, our street is used as a sidewalk. Young couples with strollers, children with bikes, rollerblades, scooters, many people walking their dogs, elderly people with their walkers and canes. People are not just passing through, but we live on the street, and they have to walk on the streets to get out of their houses to go wherever they want to go. Children walk down the street to stand and wait for the bus. They walk to school. They walk to people's houses. They walk to their friend's house. Lynnwood Avenue has already been zoned no parking during the day. There's been lots of, in the past, cars parking on Lynnwood that don't want to pay for parking at the hospital. And the town has worked with the people on Lynnwood and has put up no parking signs between 7 and 4 p.m. to eliminate the fact that it's dangerous to park cars on that street. So as an aside, I think it's kind of, counterintuitive to put a parking lot on the street if you've already asked people not to park there or have a bylaw and have signs. The house at 19 Lynnwood has been empty for 4 years, I believe. And just having that house empty allows people to park their cars in front of that house, right at the intersection, which is quite dangerous. My husband has almost been hit by a car walking our dog, trying to scoot out around a parked car, and someone didn't see him coming. I myself have almost hit a child on Brookside who scooted out in front of me on his scooter, and his little brother ran out into the road right behind him. And thank goodness I know where the children in our neighborhood live. But people coming in and out of a parking lot won't know that. And that's very dangerous. To 2 women actually have been killed in our town, at this end of town, walking on sidewalks and using pedestrian crosswalks. Those people had sidewalks to walk on, and they were still killed accidentally. Putting a parking lot and a driveway access into a neighborhood that is solely zoned as residential is unheard of, and it's irresponsible, and it's alarmingly unsafe. Accidents happen every day, but we have to be responsible, and we have to make good decisions for the welfare of our community, for the old people, for the young people, for the dying and the living. Putting a 25-car parking lot has a potential of raising the traffic and 50 trips in and out of the parking lot daily, as well as trips from service vehicles and garbage trucks, like Paul already said, delivery trucks. It's an accident waiting to happen. It's short-sighted and it's irresponsible. And one mishap is one mishap too many. I plead for the health and happiness and safety of our neighborhood and for other neighborhoods in the future. Please do not pass this rezoning of 19 Lynnwood. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori-Ann. I'm going to go back to Joan Morrison, see if she's available.
Councillor Ritchie, Joan Morrison showed up at my door a minute ago. I'll have her on camera in a second here.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I just sit down and I'm ready to go.
Hi, Joan. If you could just start by stating your address, please.
Yep, 11 Sunny Lee. I'm right at the T of Lynnwood and Sunny Lee, where the traffic will go by my house day and night. The ambulances, the hearses, which is extremely depressing and noisy. And like Lori-Ann said, it will be, people don't care. They're going to come flying in and out. They're going to go up Sunny Lee, and that is not a main artery. Lynnwood is not a main artery. When I have looked at all the other hospices in Ontario, 2 of them that are embedded in a residential zone at least have a driveway out to a public access, like a parking lot, a church parking lot, a park, something, so that people don't have to see this. And so the busyness is taken away and from a residential zone, and that it's in an appropriate zone to handle that traffic, i.e. like the church parking lot, they already know people will be coming and going. When you think about this parking lot, in the compatibility criteria in the zone, in the Grimsby bylaws, they said, McNally said, oh, they'll set it back, it'll be all pretty and plants and trees. Well, there's no windows, there's no house looking appearance. It doesn't suit the residential area as it stands, and that's what the bylaw says it should do. It should have provide, hang on, let me just find it, hurry, I'm sorry about this. New dwelling shall provide consistent relationship with the existing adjacent homes and arrangement of these. Okay, we've got that. Provide, okay, never mind, sorry about that. I'm sorry guys, but I was late on the Skyway tonight. It should be compatible with the adjacent neighboring build form. Well, a parking lot is not compatible with the house next door, and that's not acceptable. And also McNally House, if they do a 2-story, I know this is more parking lot, everybody on that corner has no backyard now. They have someone looking into their backyard. The people that bought those homes so they would have a home and be protected by the bylaws that their home would stay that way. My side yard is my backyard, and it backs onto McNally House parking lot. And so when I sit out in my backyard, I'm going to be sitting out to a parking lot. That's not why I bought my home in Grimsby. And they're supposed to have 2 cars in that driveway, not 20, as opposed to your bylaws. Hang on, the side yard is not institutional, therefore it's not the side yard at McNally House. And construction of a parking lot is not permitted. It's for higher density forms of development. That would be for downtown, not for where we are. And again, Lynnwood is not a main artery. I'm with Lorianne that I talk to everybody at my corner. It is a constant foot traffic area where people feel safe. They all stand and talk to everybody. It's a really cohesive community. And this will destroy it. And that's what Grimsby is a trustworthy, cohesive community. I've never met neighbors like this anywhere, and I've lived in a few places. I find there's something wrong with this picture, that somebody with influence and money and a board can just kind of waltz in, plan this, and have meetings where we don't really have a say, in that we had to type our responses in. We couldn't even speak. We've never really been dealt with, I don't think, on the same playing ground. Also, the hospice is for a sliver of the people out there, as much as it may be needed. Anybody with bags hanging off them in the ICU doesn't end up in that hospice. It's a very select few. And McNally pointed out that it's for the region. Well, this is our neighborhood. This isn't a region where we live. It's our neighborhood. That should be on a main street. It should be appropriate for coming and going of traffic. This is not appropriate. And I'm surprised that the town council does not want to support or protect our residents. And is that not why you're here? To stand by the bylaws and the official plan? And I say, please turn this down. Please don't let this happen. It is disrupting our lives hugely. People have retired here. We'd like a safe place to live. Wouldn't you want that for you? Do you want something built in your backyard or your side yard? I don't think so. And I think it's shameful that it's because it's someone else's place, it doesn't matter, and we'll just push it through. But it isn't. It's your backyard. It's the people that voted for you guys. Where's your integrity? And that's all I have to say. And thank you for the time.
Thank you for your comments, Joan. I don't have any other speakers on the list. If I've missed anyone, would you please make yourself be known? Since I don't see or hear anything, since this is not the official statutory meeting, as this has just been an information session, I will give council an opportunity to, if they would like to speak, but I would like to keep it just to the questions of clarification on any of the comments made, as we will be having another statutory meeting sometime in the future. Councillor Frake?
Thank you, Chair Ritchie. First of all, I would like to thank all of the residents they seem very organized, very informed, have done a lot of work and research in their delegations, and that's very much appreciated. And I think that they made some really, really fantastically valid points. And having said that, I'd like to thank Terry. She was there a minute ago. I'd like to thank Terry for saying in the early stages of this meeting that they are here tonight to listen and to gather facts, listen attentively to the residents, and they certainly gave a lot of really valid information, and that they're going to take this away and rethink, hopefully, the design and everything else that they're trying to build there. I mean, there's some great points made, and I mean, they're very valid, and they're things that concern me as a councillor, and I'm sure there's other councillors who might have different views. Floodplaining is a huge issue in this town and will continue to be a big issue, and that's one of the big things on top of my list. The traffic along Lynnwood is going to get a lot worse. The hospital will be going in there in the next number of years, and Lynnwood is actually an artery or a tributary road between Central and Main Street, so we don't want to add more traffic to that street, I wouldn't think. Phelps Homes is down the road from there. I mean, that's created more traffic, so the traffic is going to be an issue there, so that certainly is something that I would be really concerned about. I've heard the comments about the parking and the safety and the lack of sidewalks, and there's a lot of issues here. There's a lot of issues that I think are very legitimate, and I hope that the consultants and McNally House will take this away and look at it very, very seriously. I do believe that there was a lot of premature things going on here in the early stages. When McNally House acquired this property, I mean, I think it could have been, they probably acquired the property just assuming that this thing would just happen. Well, it doesn't happen like that in a neighborhood that is a sleepy neighborhood like when Lynnwood Drive area. So I think a lot of things were taken for granted in the early stages, and hopefully you'll backtrack and relook at these things again and really work with the community and see if we can all come up with something that works. But there are some things from a council perspective and from the town perspective that I have trouble with, and related to the zoning, changing the zoning and a lot of the issues that have come up tonight. So I'm not going to say any more than that. I'll leave it at that, but it'll come to council. There'll be another meeting, and hopefully everyone will come to the table with things that are going to work for everyone. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, through you, Chair. First of all, thank all the presenters who came forward, and also thank Terry Johns for her willingness to listen, and the board's willingness to listen. I know that McNally does exceptional work, but after hearing everything, all I can think of is, trying to fit a gallon into a pint. And I guess my questions are, and I want to acknowledge that I think all the concerns that residents have brought forward, and a lot of tax-paying residents, people who've paid their taxes for years and years and years, have a right to be considered, more than just heard, but actually considered. The traffic, those issues are real. The floodplain issue is real. So guess what I'm wondering is, given that this is we're now being told a regional facility, I've sort of come to the conclusion that McNally's current ambitions for expansion just don't fit where they are right now. And given that this is considered a reasonable or a regional institution, would there be other palliative care homes that may be more suitable or more suitably located for expansion than McNally? And, I think there's something that sort of stuck with me was when I was talking with Murray Bain. Hello, Mr. Bain, I see you there. When I was talking with Murray Bain, that he said, because I wanted to know what the daycare hospice did. And he said, there's a huge demand for it. And he said, we could double what we're doing now. And all I could think of is the kind of pressure doubling what's existing on the site. Because if the demand is there, it will definitely put, pressure on a site that I think, I think that the site and the neighbors have found kind of a cohesive living at this time. They've adapted to each other. But I'm just not feeling like that this expansion in the way it's been framed, particularly with the sort of day hospice piece, the expansion of day hospice, is what's going to cause, it seems to be the trigger of, why we need the house, why we need the parking lot. Just going from 6 beds to 10 beds, I'm sure that could be accommodated in somehow within the existing building. So if there, and I know it would be sort of, a nice transition to have everything kind of there, day hospice, whatever, but I just don't think that the site can handle it. So my question to you is, have you considered working with other hospices that might be more right for the kind of expansion that you're envisioning?
Thank you, Councilor Vardy. I'm just, who are you directing the question towards?
Anyone who'd like to answer it that's representing McNally.
I'll ask them if they'd like to answer. They don't have to. They stated that they're just here for information purposes to see what the community wanted, see if there might be some kind of way to move forward. This isn't the official statutory
Thank you,
public meeting.
Councillor Ritchie.
Yep.
You did ask if we had any questions that we could pose them. So that is my question.
Absolutely. So then, again, and I sit there and thank you.
Bernie Bain, perhaps, who's chair of the board, perhaps Mr. Bain could answer that question.
If you would like to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vardy. I'll just say that we hear that question, and again, as Terry has mentioned, we're here to listen to all those questions, consider what can be done, and provide a way forward or some possible ways forward. And so I think we'll leave it at that this evening. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Cadwell.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the residents for taking time out and doing your research and giving us your opinions and comments to the area that you people live in. I respect that. I was, as I said, I was listening and I took a lot of notes too. So, and again, I'm just going to, I look forward to the next steps within this process to the statutory meeting. And I thank the folks from McNally House for being here, and we have our own staff here too. So I don't have any direct questions or comments right now, but again, as I said, I did take down a lot of notes, so I appreciate that. So just want to say thank you all for your time, respectfully.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Sharp.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I just had a couple of comments and questions. I met with Wayne Mullins and Joan and Alistair, some of the neighbors. It was quite some time ago, and we discussed some of the same issues that they brought tonight. So I'm hearing them, and I want to ask the question of the board, or possibly of T. John's. Is there a possibility that we can access this new site through the new hospital site?
Through the chair, I'm happy to answer that question if you would like.
That's up to you. Again, I'll make the statement that this isn't an official public meeting. If you'd like to answer, go ahead. I know that you guys are here just to gather information to try and work with the community. So if you'd like to answer it, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm happy to answer that because it was something that I dealt with in my presentation on April 26th. We are in a difficult position, Councillor Sharp. We have actually looked at that, and it isn't physically or financially possible because of the drainage area that goes through the property. So respectfully, we would be quite happy if that was possible, quite honestly, because we wouldn't be in this situation. But it does represent some challenges that we cannot manage. So we're in front of you this evening with the rezoning application.
Thank you. Then my second question, very similar, and I think you probably have already considered it. Is there any way to enter through Central Avenue? Is there an existing entrance on Central Avenue?
There is the existing entrance on Central, which gives us our primary access to the current hospice. The difficulty is getting over to the undeveloped institutional designated and zoned property where the expansion's going. That waterway that I mentioned traverses the whole property.
Is there any way to build a bridge over that, or a culvert, I mean?
We actually had an engineer look at that as well with an environmental engineer, and it represents huge increase to the building budget that is just not feasible.
Is there any maybe grant money or money available through to help protect that waterway that can maybe through development credits or something that could help make that? You don't have to answer the question, but maybe there is something available that can help offset that.
We will actually look into that. So noted. I understand your questions, and we have not looked into that suggestion, but we will take that as a takeaway to look into.
Okay, and maybe look to the region because the town doesn't have too much, and the region has a little bit bigger budget than we do. So thanks for helping, and thanks for entertaining my questions tonight. Thank you to all the residents who are here and who have taken the time to participate in this. And thank you to the board at McNally House for listening and taking this proactive step to push this a little further along and wait to hear more and find more answers or options. So again, thanks, and that's all from me.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. So I'll throw it out one more time if anybody has any other comments or questions. Councillor Vardy.
I'd just like to know what the next steps are in terms of, I mean, you've stated this isn't an official public meeting, so I'd just like to know, and maybe Walter can answer that question, just sort of where we go from here. What are the next things we do? So
Walter, if you'd like to answer, please feel free. But my understanding is that they've withdrawn from the official open house, as stated at the beginning of the meeting. They had heard the comments from the residents and the petitions, and they wanted an opportunity to listen to the residents and go back and see if there's anything they can do to change their plans or not change their plans. And then I would imagine the next step would be once again to have an open public statutory meeting.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you've accurately stated the situation.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, since this is an official statutory public meeting, there is no resolutions to be passed tonight. So I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you to the staff, the residents, McNally House, and we look forward to future meetings. Other than that, thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned.
Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.